Shalom, hallelujah, hallelujah. All right, so today we're in the fifth day Aliyah of Parashah Vayeishev or Vayeishab, which is Genesis chapter 39, verses 1 through 6. And we're dealing with house slave, field slave. And we're dealing with the Puerto Ricano, because Joseph is the father of the Puerto Ricans and the Cubans. Joseph is the father of the Puerto Ricans and the Cubans. The father, Joseph's son Ephraim Apadium, is the father of the Puerto Ricanos, and Joseph's son Manasseh is the father of the Cubanos. So that's why we're calling it Puerto Ricanos. And the house slave, field slave, shows us about Joseph or Yahweh, how when he became a slave under these Hamite Africans, he was dealing in both the field and the house. And that's one of the other subtle spiritual nuances that show us that the blacks in America, the Latino people, are the people that the scriptures talk about, because we have that term being used over here, field slave and house slave in the Western Hemisphere, from the Spanish, the French, and the British having us in slavery. Okay, so once again, I am a servant. I serve Yahweh, the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, from Genesis to Revelation, in the name of and through the power of his son, Yahweh Shai Hamashiach, which is the so-called black man who the world calls Jesus Christ. We must repent as a people, and we must turn back to the Torah and obey the commandments, all of the commandments of Yahweh. And as we obey the commandments of Yahweh, we understand that salvation comes to us through the sacrifice of his son, Yahweh Shai Hamashiach, all right, who is the Savior and the Prince exalted for the people of Yashar Allah, Israel, which are the so-called Afro-Latino indigenous peoples in the Americas, North, Central, South America, and the Caribbean, as well as various parts of the world scattered through captivity. Now, once again, the next new moon is going to begin on December 6th, and it ends on December 7th at sunset. We have a celebration coming up of Hanukkah, which is on the 30th, beginning tomorrow night, which celebrates the struggle that we won against the Greeks to get the temple back in Jerusalem in approximately 165 BC, under the Greeks, under Antiochus Epiphanes. Okay, and also remember that we have Passover coming up on April 18th, April to April 19th sunset, which is the first holy day of Passover. We do not work on that day, but we can cook because it is a holy day. And any of the 7 days of the Feast of Unleavened Bread that fall on the Sabbath, we are permitted to cook on that day. The last day of Passover is going to be April 24th to 25th, which is also a holy day. It means we cannot work or pursue our own pleasures. And just to clarify, when the Sabbath comes in this week, that's the first day of Hanukkah. However, we cannot cook on that day because Yahweh did not make that day a holy day. We decided that we were going to use that day to honor and respect what Yahweh did for us when he delivered us out of the hand of the Greeks that were occupying our land. When you read in Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 33, verse 7 through 9, it talks about one day excels another, and Yahweh has made some days ordinary, and he's made some days holy days. All right. So we can't make a day holy and say Yahweh sees it as holy also, but Yahweh makes the days holy and tells us to observe these days, you know, as holy days also. All right. So moving on, I'm your brother, your teacher for this evening, Parashah. Okay. An elder with the government of Israel, Masharah Yasharallah, as well as an elder judge with Banya Yasharallah. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get into the Torah. Now, what's beautiful about this Torah session that we're going to do today is that we're only reading six verses, which means that I can actually read and we can look at the Hebrew a little more, and that can give us a little more understanding. All right. So we're going to start with verse 1 right now. Joseph had been sold a slave into Egypt. Meanwhile, his brother Judah, the father of the so-called Black Americans, was out tricking with a Hamite African woman that disguised herself as a prostitute. And he went into her and had two baby twin sons, Zarak and Paratzah, all right, which is Perez and Zerah. And that's going to be the family that the Messiah is going to come through, all right? So we're going to begin. Vayeishev, Hawarad, Matzar Yamach, Wa Yakonahwa, Pawat Yapar, Sariyas, Paraai, Shar, Ha, Tabakyam, Ayash Matzariya, Mayad, Yashmi Alayam, Asherah, Hawarad, Hawa, Shamah. So, and Yahusap had been taken down to Egypt and brought him, Potiphar bought him, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, or of the slaughterers, the butchers, not the butchers, but the slaughterers, a man that was an Egyptian. He bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. All right, taking him down there. So Joseph is a slave now. Okay, Joseph is a slave, and this was the reality of those times. You could be kidnapped, or somebody found you stuck in a pit, and you could be sold as a slave. And this is exactly what happened to Joseph, and this is what happened to our people on the west coast of Africa, as well as what happened to our people in the Americas. They were kidnapped and put in slavery. All right, different plantations, haciendas, estancias. All right, verse 2. Wa Yahya Yahweh at Yawasap, Wa Yahya Ayash Matzaliyak, Wa Yahya Babayath Adanyawa Ha Matzar Yah. All right, so, and Yahweh was with Joseph, and he was successful man in the house of his master, the Egyptian. All right, so Joseph prospered and was successful when he was a slave. So now I know several people may find this a little bit strange to say, but Joseph accepted the reality of his captivity and of his bondage. It was not a common thing for individuals to say, I'm gonna run away from slavery, and to do it successfully. So Joseph accepted the reality of his condition as a slave, and he decided to, be a good slave. I mean, this is the part of the Bible that people want to look into the New Testament in Ephesians and say, when it says servant, obey your masters, and say that that's condoning being a slave. Well, the way Joseph is conducting himself, a forefather of Israel itself, is not condoning slavery per se, but it's just accepting the social reality that another people are dominant over Joseph at this point, and he just makes the best out of a bad situation, and Yahweh blesses him, and he has much success and prosperity. As he does good in his master's house, then Joseph himself increases in his freedoms and the things that he can and can't do. Okay? Now let's read verse 3. Wa yara'a adanyawa kaya hawa atwa wa kal ashera hawa'a isha yahawa matzaliyak ba yadwa. So the Joseph's master, who once again is Pawatyapar, Joseph's master is Potiphar. And he notices that everything, all right, the scripture says that everything, listen what it says. It says, Wakal and all, Ashara, that, Hawa'a, he, Aisha, do or did. All that he did, Yahweh, Matzazal, Yak. Yahweh prospered it. Yahweh increased it. Yahweh made it profitable. Everything that he did, by Yadwa, anything that came into Joseph's hand, the Most High blessed it. And we see the same thing that happened in Puerto Rico, in Haiti, in America, in Mexico. All right. This is how the European nations became great and successful, because Yahweh put the spirit on the Israelite slaves that were brought from West Africa and on the Israelite indigenous peoples in the America that were put in captivity, put into slavery, made to work the fields. Yahweh caused everything that we did to prosper. That's why we look onto this part of the world and we wonder, well, why didn't Africa prosper like America did? Why didn't Europe? Why didn't Russia? Why didn't Vietnam? Why didn't India? Why didn't Australia prosper like America did? Well, the answer is because the people of Yahweh were brought into the land of the North, which is North America, as well as Central, South America, and the Caribbean. And whatever we put our hand to, all right, Yahweh made it to prosper. That's how America became great. They looked for the people that were in West Africa and they said, okay, who's got rice? Who's good with the sugar cane? All right. And then they brought the people from the west coast of Africa and sometimes the east and brought them into captivity, into the Americas. So Yahweh made everything to prosper that Joseph had his hands to. All right. Now, verse 4. Wa Yamatza'a, Wa Yamatza'a, Yawasab Khan, Ba Iyanyawa, Wa Yasharath, Athwa, Wa Yapakwad Hawa, Ail Bayathwa, Wa Kal Yasha Lawa, Natan Ba Yadwa, Wa. Okay, so that's the end of that verse. So Joseph, of course, found favor in the eyes or in the sight, ba iyanya wa, in the eyes, all right, of his master, all right, of his master. And that's exactly what he calls him right here, Adanyawa. So he was Joseph's master. He was Joseph's owner. He was the one that gave Joseph the orders of what he needed to do. All of his actions, all of Joseph's actions were governed by another man. All right, so he called them Adanyawa. That's why a lot of you brothers that call people Khan Adawan. That's a very strong and spiritual word. And if you're not really submitting to a man as your master, then you probably shouldn't be calling people Adawan or Adanya. It doesn't just mean sir. It means master. All right. It means you're totally submitting to that man. All right. Now it can be used in righteousness. All right. There's nothing wrong with that word, but a lot of our people use it kind of like a slang word, like "What's up, King?" or "Shalom Malak" or "Shalom Malak Melek" or "Adonai Adonanya Khan Adawan." All right. So now he says, so Joseph's master saw that Yahweh was with him. All right. And then when we go back down and jump back down to verse 4, everything Joseph was made the overseer. All right. Joseph, what this is the word. Joseph was made the overseer. Okay. Joseph was put over everything that was in it. Says Wayapakwad Hawa Ail Bayatwa. And he put him overseer, all right, over or of Bayatwa, his house. So he was put in charge of the whole house of Payatya part of Potiphar. What's Aliyah? What's that? All right. So he says that everything that's in his house is now under control of Joseph or Yahweh. So everything that he said he put it in Joseph's hand. So now Joseph controls everything that's in this man's house. All right. So he rose up quick as a slave. All right. So it says, Wa Yahya Ma'az Hapakuyad Atwa Ba Bayatwa Wa Ail Kal Ashera Yasha Lawa Wa Yabarak Yahweh Ath Bayat Hamatzariah Ba Galal Yawasap Wa Yahaya Barakath Yahweh Bakal Ashera Yashalawa Babayath Wa Ba Shada. Bashada. Let's review it again. So it says, and it was, all right, and it was from that point on when he made him overseer of his house and of all that he had. All right. And once again, it says that Yahweh blessed the house of the Egyptians, all right, because of, on the count of, all right, for the sake of Joseph, Yahweh, all right. And Joseph, Yahweh, was a blessing, all right, to Yahweh in all that he had, and all that Potiphar had in his house and in the field. So you see that? So Joseph was in charge and was a blessing to the house, Bayath, and in the field, Shaddai. And that goes into what I said earlier, that you got the house slave and you got the field slave. Now Joseph was basically over everything in the house and the field. That means the cooks. That means the clothes getting washed, the laundry. That meant the food getting planted and harvested. If they had where they had a field, it said they had a field. All right, the horses, the animals that they had. All right, Egyptians weren't vegans. Egyptians weren't vegetarians. They ate meat. Okay, They ate all sorts of meat. So Yahweh made Joseph, who was a slave now, a blessing. All right. Just like we see happening in Puerto Rico and in Cuba. The so-called white man was mad when the Cubans wanted him to get out of their country. And we talking in the 1900s. Okay, they went to war. They said, nah, we love being down here too much, exploiting and robbing and taking advantage of you Cuban people. And the Cubans said, nah, man, we got to get out of here. All right. And in Puerto Rico, Puerto Ricans rose up and went to the U.S. government offices in D.C. and planted bombs in there. All right. That's how mad the Puerto Ricans were that the so-called white man was occupying Puerto Rico. And this happened under Pedro Albizu Campos. Look that brother up. Pedro Albizu Campos is a revolutionary brother that took physical actions with his organization against America. All right. These are the descendants of Joseph, Puerto Ricans and Cubans from the tribe of Ephraim and Manasseh, Apartium and Manasseh. All right. So basically, Yahweh was saying, hey, Joseph is down here. I'm going to bless you all because of Joseph. Why? Because the scene has to get set for Joseph to move up in rank. See, the scene had to get set in America for America to be the place where everybody wanted to come to. Everybody wanted to get into America. And you got the tribe of Zebulon, and you can put maybe a different spin I've been thinking of, or maybe you've been thinking of. Why? Because America, the land of the north, is going to be the place where the children of Israel have their most monumental deliverance from captivity. According to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 20, chapter 20, verse 33 to 38. According to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 23, right? As well as in Jeremiah chapter 3. So the Most High is going to have all the 12 tribes in the land of the north and going to deliver them from America and from all of the countries where he was made us to be scattered to. Zayata, why don't you come into the class with us? You had something better to do? You must have. What were you doing over there? So that's better than being in the studying the session? Okay. Yeah, I know I'm recording, and this is real life. So why don't you come in with us? I'm asking you why, though. It's obvious you didn't want to because nobody stopped you, but I'm asking you why. Okay. So now, Joseph is getting blessed. His master is getting blessed. And everything that his master has that's in the house Negro, and in the field Negro. So everything that they have in that man's house is growing and getting prospered. Everything, okay? Everything is getting increased under Joseph's supervision. Now, Joseph learned a lot from his father, and the spirit of wisdom was with him too. And the Most High was with Joseph. So he learned from his father, and his father learned from his ancestors and fathers too. So Joseph has all this wealth of information. Joseph's specialty was management. All right. And remember, Jacob, his father, was an expert at animal husbandry, expert at reproductive management. Remember, the Most High blessed Isaac and Abraham and Jacob and all that they put their hands to, and they increased. And that blessing now is in Joseph's hand, because now Joseph is being groomed and being brought high in Egypt. Why? So the Most High could bring him low and put him right back in the dungeon, right back in the pit, right back in jail, where he spent like 17 years, man, locked up. I believe it was like 17 years, something like that. Locked up, I think. Okay. But anyway, so Joseph is in charge of the stuff that's in the field and the house. And once again, this is the reality of this time period. Slavery was okay. It was a social reality. There was no NAACP. There was no Black Panther Party. There was, and that just shows you America's power. The power that the so-called white man has in America. He doesn't care if you try to have some type of militia or some type of group to get freedom. He doesn't care. Whenever he's ready, he's gonna murder and shoot and drug and kidnap everybody that he wants to. Right? That's what he does. So that's how powerful he is. Now can you imagine having a Black Panther Party for self-defense in ancient Egypt, or having a Black guerrilla army or Aryan nation saying we're against America? Well, just the fact that you saying you against America and nothing's happening to you, one, shows you how big of a threat you're not to America, and two, you're benefiting from the same quote unquote freedom in America that you talking against America about, right? Because you can't go to any other country and say, hey, we hate this government and we want to bring it down. Go try that in Saudi Arabia, all right? Go shoot, not even Saudi Arabia, just go try that in Russia, right? Go start that in Russia, all right? Go over and say it in Russia. Go to any of these countries and say, hey, we don't like this government, we're going to bring it down. You're not going to be able to successfully exercise that kind of speech. So, people talk against America, and rightfully so, but people forget that America gives you more liberty, so-called liberty, to say what you want to say, because they're controlling what you say. They're controlling how you think. They've already programmed people to just talk. All Israelites do is talk. All y'all do is talk. And the so-called white man has used the counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO, to make y'all fight against each other. They make you, well, this group and that group, and this, you're fighting against each other. You're not doing the Most High's work. You're fighting against each other. Because the Most High's work is to bring his people back to repentance. That's the work of the Most High, to bring his people back to Torah. All right. So yeah, Revelations 12, we know it talks about the red beast. All right, the great red dragon. We know that links back up to the so-called white man, and it calls him the devil and Satan, that old serpent, in Revelation chapter 12. It says that. All right. But then also the things you say in America, you ain't gonna go to you ain't gonna go to Colombia, even our own countries, talking against that government. Go do it, see what happens. Go do it and see what happens. All right, you're not gonna get away with it. America's the only place you can get away with doing things like that, because the white man, everything I'm saying now is being monitored. Everything you doing now is being monitored. You awake over there now? Everything you doing now is being monitored. And I know I'm getting off track. So what? All right. Ain't nothing better on right now anyway. All right. This is prime time Parashah you getting right now. Check this out. When I was in university, Central State University, there was a brother there. Brother's name was Lloyd. Brother was from D.C. All right. The brother was from D.C. He lived in D.C. I think he lived in Southeast. They had a Muhammad mosque down there for the Nation of Islam. The brother went inside this mosque a couple of times. He was like 12, 13, 14, going in and out the mosque and stuff. So then the brother, he was studying political science in college, and some federal companies, federal organizations were trying to recruit him, or trying to recruit, period. And one of the people that he had linked up with some kind of way was the FBI. The FBI pulled out, pictures of him from the 80s of him going into this mosque when he was like 12, 13, 14 years old, saying, "Yo, is this you?" Like, yeah, that's me. So they already know who you are. If you in this truth trying to keep the Torah, the FBI knows you. The CIA knows you. The NSA, they know you. All right. The CFR, they know you, depending on what you're really talking about. If you ain't talking about nothing that's going to be revolutionary toward the liberation of our people spiritually, they don't care what you're saying. Because they know they know that the Most High is who they got to worry about. And if you ain't talking about becoming submissive to the commandments of the Most High, they know that you will have no success in what you're trying to do. They know that. That's why they created the COINTELPRO, was to look for the Messiah. They know that the Messiah is going to rise up to liberate our people. They know this, which, you know, they know is going to be a forerunner of, or to be King David himself. So in this captivity, Joseph says, you know what? I'm in captivity. I'm going to rise in this captivity. I'm basically, let me break it down plain to you. Joseph was a good slave, but it took Joseph being a good slave for what? For Joseph to be able to get free and liberated. I'm going to tell you something else that you might not understand. Toussaint Louverture, no, more than Toussaint Louverture was Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Jean-Jacques Dessalines was a slave in Haiti that fought for freedom with Toussaint Louverture, and they won. Haiti won their freedom, but Jean-Jacques Dessalines was a general, so they had a natural fighting spirit. But check this out. Jean-Jacques Dessalines was such a good slave, he was owned by another Israelite black man in Haiti, not mulatto or white or French, but he was owned by another black man in Haiti that was free. And he was such a good slave. And his master, which was another black Israelite Haitian that owned him, was so good to him in his slavery that when he became free, that's when he took on the name Dessalines. He kept that name Dessalines, and he gave his master freedom. All right, his master, he got free from his master, and his master stayed on to work for him. So that was the reality of slavery. And we're talking about, you know, we're talking about the late 1700s, early 1800s. All right. We're not talking about, you know, Joseph's time. We're talking about, you know, we're talking about less than 250 years ago. This is what the reality was in Haiti, man. All right. So the realities of slavery is only when Judah, so-called black man, you know, which we know all of our people are fighting for freedom. All right. Tecumseh, Tatake Iotake, and Goyatle. And of course, you probably don't know these people. You know them by other, you know, anglicized names. They were fighting for their freedom, you know, but it kind of had steam and then it lost steam. However, once so-called black men in America started to gripe against the U.S. government for what they were doing, and once they say, you know what, you burning enough of our buildings, you lynching us enough, you had whole towns that were destroyed. All right, you burning us enough, you lynching us, you murdering us enough. And then when you had, you know, people like F.S. Cherry, all right, and then you have people like William Saunders Crowdy, all right, rising up saying, hey, we are the children of Israel. We fit these prophecies in the scriptures. We got to keep these commandments, right? Then, you know, things were still bad, but they started to pick up in the late 1800s, mid 1800s, when the brother named the brother that was his name was Martin Delaney. He wrote a book, and in his book he said that the Mexicans and the blacks and the indigenous people are none but the same people, and they share the same history and the same destiny. Now, this is what was known to our people in the 1800s during slavery. There was no difference between the so-called Indian and so-called Negro and the so-called Mexican. All of them were discriminated against and could be murdered on sight in America with no legal repercussions whatsoever at all. All right. So now in America now, you can talk against the government, but before you couldn't do that. All right. So the whole concept about, let's band together and fight for freedom, that's a new concept, relatively speaking. All right. That's a new concept, and that's what was so unique about the children of Israel. When can you ever go in history and see a group of people that got together and said, we leaving from your country. We're not going to be slaves and oppressed by you anymore. And anytime something like that happened, it was Israelites that had any degree of ephemeral, temporary success, as in you want to talk about Spartacus or Hannibal. These were Israelite men. Israelite men could have been from a collection of tribes. Everything that happened by famous people in history that was Israelites doesn't automatically mean it was the tribe of Judah. It was the so-called blacks that came into the Americas. When you go into the western part of Africa and you get into a lot of groups of Israelites that have been conquered but haven't been fully captured yet, kind of like the brothers and sisters in the Amazon. They've been conquered, right? But they haven't been fully captured. But they conquered. They're not self-ruling anymore. So when you go into West Africa, you see different groups like the Tuaregs, where you have a wide range of Afro-Latino, indigenous-looking people who were Israelites that very well could have been a part of Hannibal's army, or from Septimius Severus' homeland in Leptis Magna. All right, could have very well been, compadres of his cohorts. All right. So anyway, slavery and what's happened to Joseph was a reality. All right. And his children today, the children of Joseph, are the Puerto Ricanos. Okay, that's what we're gonna call you. The Puerto Ricanos, the Cubans and the Puerto Ricans are the children of Joseph today. All right. So now Joseph was made an overseer. All right. Now that's why they call Puerto Rico the island of the noble lords. All right. The nobles were living there. And when they got to Puerto Rico, what did they call it? Puerto Rico, which means the port of riches, because they were taking out so much gold, so many precious metals, so many precious stones, so many pearls from out of Puerto Rico. They say, yo, this is the port of riches. This is the port of riches. That's how rich, and that's the same exact thing that we see happening with Joseph, showing you how Joseph is the ancestor of these people in Puerto Rico, because Spain grew in so much size and power once they got their foot in Puerto Rico and in the Caribbean after that. You don't hear anything about Spain and France and Portugal being no world superpowers with all this economic power behind them before they came into the Americas, right? It's not in history. It's only when they came into the Americas, they stole the gold, they stole the silver, they stole the jewels, and they took it back to Spain and converted that into, metallurgical creations of the guns, of the bullets, all right? And then they started doing gunpowder and stuff. And then when they started to do it in America, all right, all the Colts and the Sam Colt and Remington and Winchester, that's when the white man lost his cotton rabbit mind and said, man, we can make our own guns, our own cannons, we can make our own bullets. Man, we really about to be free now. And that's when they just started murdering all of our people. The Gatling gun, murdering all of our brothers on the reservations. The Gatling gun, the machine gun that had many different barrels that you would crank it and it just spat out bullets. All right, making a hole in people's bodies, spitting bullets at them, and that's how they won the wars against the Gadites. When they had self-loading, when they had single-shot rifle, single-shot muskets, right? They were losing. They were losing, right? Even when they had revolvers, they were losing because we could load up an arrow and fire it accurately. Riding on a horse quicker than a so-called white man could get off shots to kill us, and that's what they never tell us. But you know, we lost that advantage when they started making all these new weapons. And now the so-called white man is controlling the whole zone. He controls everything that goes on in his kingdom. And that's why we on the internet right now talking against him. That's why we on Facebook and we on Facebook because the white man, the damn devil made Facebook. We on YouTube because the devil made YouTube. All right. We on Twitter and we on Instagram because the devil made these things. But the Israelites that introduced the technology to create these platforms. Remember that. It was the Israelites that created the processors to create these platforms. It was the Israelites that created the technology to create these platforms. Matter of fact, it was the Israelites that won World War II with the Navajo code talkers for the so-called white man. So we're just an under recognized asset. It's like it says in the book of the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7. It said that they're gonna make no account of all of our labor. They're gonna make no account of all of our labor. And Wisdom of Solomon, you can read Wisdom of Solomon chapter I'm sorry, not 7. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 5, and you can read verse 1. We're going to rise up before the people that afflicted us and made no account of our labors. All right. So I know I'm procrastinating, man, because I don't want to get to this last verse because I'm enjoying going into this lesson. The last verse now is this. So Joseph was a blessing to his master, Barakah. Okay. So it was a blessing and was the blessing of Yahweh. Barakah Yahweh Bakal Asherah Yashalawa Babayath Wa Bashada. In the house, Bayath, and in the field, Shadah. So Joseph had the house slaves and the field slaves under his control and his charge. And of course, he was dealing with them righteously. But the so-called white man, he's such a brute that during slavery, he felt that all he had to do was to beat us, make us scared, and make us work. And that's the same evil advice that the young men gave to Solomon's son. The people said, man, just be nice to us. Don't oppress your own people, and we be your servants forever. And Solomon's son said, man, my little pinky is going to be more strong against you than my father's whole body was. And they said, you know what, cool, we're going to revolt. And from that point on, the house of Israel / house of Ephraim and the house of Judah have been kind of clashing with each other, and it continues to this day. Calling each other all kinds of names, all right? Calling each other all kinds of names and derogatory racial epithets, false nations being thrown at them because Judah wanted to oppress his own people. All right, you can't do that, Judah. All right. Now, verse 6. Verse 6, it says, Vayeishev kal asherah lawa bayad yawasap wala'a yadai atwa ma'awana kaya halakam asherah hawa'a wakal wa yahaya. I'm sorry, Wa Yahya Yawasap Yapa Yapa Ma'ar Wa Yapa Mara'a. I'm gonna say this real quick. It's kind of funny to me. And I was when I first read this, when I looked at it, when I looked at it in the Hebrew first, it was more funnier without this English underneath of it. I looked at it in Hebrew first without the English. It was more funny. But looking at the English, you can see why it's funny. It says that Joseph's, and it makes me think that Joseph was some kind of like a Puerto Rican type pretty boy. I'm gonna tell you why. Because it says that his mother Rachel was also beautiful in form, and it says that our mother Rebecca was beautiful. All right, and it says that our mother Sarah was beautiful. It says all these people was just beautiful women. All right, but you don't hear nothing about Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob being beautiful or being handsome. This is the first time in the whole history of the Bible. I don't know if they say this again, but this is the first time that the Bible singles out a man and says, "Man, this was a good-looking man." So it makes you think that, Joseph was like, and everybody, especially anybody from New York, if you over 30 or whatever, anybody from New York know that Ephraim was known for trying to be like little pretty boys. All right, trying to slick their hair back, don't want to grow their beard in, trying to look young, hair slicked back. Now they probably arching their eyebrows. Aventura and them, Aventura from Puerto Rico, and they don't got nothing on the regular Ephraimite, you know what I'm saying, that you see, in New York, and that in New York, man. Ephraim is like, they think they now, but don't get it twisted. They got the young Lord. Ephraim will cut you. Ephraim will stab you. Ephraim will shoot you too. So just because Ephraim is a handsome tribe, man, Ephraim still some killers. So don't get it twisted. Remember, Ephraim went to war with all of Israel, just like Benjamin did. Ephraim went to war with Israel. When he went to war with Israel, it was only because Ephraim couldn't say the words the right way that they knew who the Ephraimites were, because they couldn't say certain words the way that the other nation says the word. That's why Ephraim a lot of times from the country says ahos instead of aros, aros. Can any of y'all say aros with the double R movement? Aros. Say it louder. Aros. Say it again. One person. Say it again. You say it. Can you say it? Can you say it? All right. You? Aros. I said, can you say it? I didn't ask you to say it. Okay. You can do a double R. It ain't like a double R to me. Say it. Aros. All right. You say it. Amaria. say it again. Aros. Okay. And now how do your grandmother say it? Aho. Ephraim say, a lot of Ephraim say aho, especially like the Jibaros, right? Or the Jibaros that lived in the hills and in the country of Puerto Rico. They don't do no type of double R's. They say aho. They say it's a J sound. Now they might have got that from like the Canary Islands, or they might have got it from like the maybe Portugal. I don't know, but they say it different than everybody. Everybody know Ephraim pronounced all of his Spanish words different than the rest of the tribe. Ephraim pronounced a lot of his words differently, with less of a Spanish accuracy than the other tribes do. Okay, so when you read the Bible, you see that same thing happen in the ancient world. They pronounce their words differently than everybody else. So now it says Joseph is handsome. He said Joseph is handsome in form and in appearance. Now, what that means is that Joseph had a nice physique and he had a nice, handsome face. All right. So now it tells us that Joseph's master, all right, he didn't even know. It tells us, I think it was La'ayadai. He says, Wala'ayadai Akwa. It says he didn't have any knowledge himself of anything. All right. Anything, the only thing he knew about was the bread, the food that he ate. What's for dinner tonight, Joseph? Okay. The money, how it was made, who was getting paid, money coming in. He gave Joseph total control. So what does that mean? Joseph's hand was in the neck of his enemies. That's what it's talking about with Judah. Judah controlled America. Judah, when you go into DC, especially in like the 50s, 60s, 70s, you could not have a lot of racism in DC, you know, back in like the early 1900s, even up to now. Why? Because Judah is the one that was running the federal education, federal health, federal welfare, federal the Department of Printing and Engraving. Judah was the one that was running all of the government offices in DC and could shut it down in less than 2 hours. The whole country of DC, the capital of DC, and subsequently the country could get shut down, I would say, within 3 hours if all of the Judites just walked off their jobs. That's how ingrained, and anybody from DC, y'all know this. All right. Anybody from DC knows this, that our people are the backbone of the federal government employees. We are the backbone. Right? We are the backbone. I remember that my mother used to work for when we had moved from DC, New York, then we moved to PG off of Landover Road, right outside of Southeast. All right, no, not too far from what's that, Bowlings, and then you had Indian Head Highway, and then you had man, what was that? It was a shopping center right there. It had like a Morton's. Yeah, we used to go to Morton's back in the day. Morton's was over there, and then I can't think of the name of that. Was it Southeast? It was Southeast Plaza. Anyway, I remember she used to work for HEW. All right. She's worked for health, education, and welfare. And I remember I went to that building, you know, with her. I mean, we went to the Smithsonian all the time, you know, in DC. All right. Went over there in Anacostia Park over there with the little hand coming out the ground. Me and my sister used to play on that little hand by the Anacostia Park, you know, kind of in the area where they got the Fisherman's Wharf over there, you know, in DC. All right. So Israelites are in DC. Israelites kind of run the whole DC government. And that's the same thing that happened to Joseph. Joseph was running this man's household. And this man is like on the top levels of government. All right. He's an executive class of his rank, of his job. He's the chief executioner. That means all the executioners and all the provinces throughout the Egyptian empire report to him. So he was very used to distributing authority to other people. So when he distributed this authority to Joseph, it was nothing new for him. But for him to say, you know what, I'm not my own house, I'm not worried about it. All right, that's how much he trusted Joseph. He didn't know anything else going on in his house except for the food that he ate. And then it comes back to Joseph was handsome. Now, I'm gonna go into a scripture. All right. We're gonna leave right here for a minute. All right. And I want to go into some scriptures about about Joseph. All right. So let's go into we're gonna go into Ecclesiasticus. Okay. So we're going to go into Ecclesiasticus. Now this is Ecclesiasticus right here. Ecclesiasticus chapter 1. Ecclesiasticus chapter 11 right here, verse 1. Wisdom lifteth up the head of him that is of low degree. What does that mean? That means that when you are low and you're walking in wisdom, wisdom will lift you up. Wisdom will say, you know what? There's a way for you to work righteously and be a slave. Work righteously and not not compromise your service to Yahweh. So wisdom will lift up your head of him that is of low degree. So Joseph was a slave. So now Joseph went from being a slave to being a slave that was replacing his master and all of his executive staff. Because now Joseph is in charge of the man's household, okay, and maketh him to sit among great men. Now we know this is kind of like a metaphor because the Egyptians would not sit with the Hebrews. But as time went on, Joseph got adopted as a Hebrew, as an Egyptian, because he sat by himself and his brothers thought he was an Egyptian, and he started to eat with the Egyptians later on in his life. So he literally was sitting with Pharaoh, had dinner with Pharaoh. This is the king of Egypt, one of the most powerful men in the world at that time, and Joseph is sitting down eating with him. So Joseph fulfilled this point of wisdom. Now the second part of the verse says what? It says, commend not a man for his beauty, neither abhor a man for his outward appearance. That means that Joseph was a handsome man, a beautiful man, the scripture says. It said he had beauty. But it says Joseph wasn't commended because of that. That was mentioned in the latter part. But his Joseph being lifted up and Yahweh being with him was mentioned first. Okay? That was mentioned first. All right? So then his beauty is not what raised him up. It was his service to Yahweh and his service to wisdom that rose him up. Neither abhor a man for his outward appearance. That means that the smartest brothers, the wisest brothers, ain't always gonna look, like a handsome Joseph. So don't be discriminating because the brother might not have, his hair might be a little shaggy, his beard might be a little what do you call that? Patchy. He might have bald spots in 3 or 4 different parts of his head. But he said, you know what? I got bald spots. I'm not cutting my hair low because the law says don't do that. So don't commend him because of his outward beauty, and don't abhor him because of the outward beauty, but look on the content of his heart. But, judge a man according to his works in the Most High and his humility. All right. And his humility. All right. So now something else that we want to go to, besides Ecclesiasticus chapter 11, verse 1, now I want to go into the book of Ephesians. And this is exactly, what we see Joseph doing. I want to go into the book of Ephesians, and I want to go into chapter 6. And from chapter 6, I want to go to verse 5, because we just saw that Joseph was obeying his master. All right, Joseph was obeying his master, and his obedience brought deliverance to the 12 tribes of Israel. All right. Now it says servants, which Joseph was a servant, be obedient to them that are your masters according to the flesh. So this man was controlling Joseph's body. The Bible calls this man Joseph's Lord. So it says obey them with what? With fear and trembling. I'm sure Joseph was scared too. This guy was the chief of all the executioners in Egypt. Imagine if somebody has the power to snap their fingers and you get put to death. That's what Joseph was going through. In singleness of your heart as unto Hamashiach. All right. So Joseph was responding quick as if he was responding to the Son of the Most High. He couldn't have excelled in Egypt. It was a job. It was a job. He got food, he got clothes. All right, he got food and he got clothes and he got a roof over his head and he had a job to do. All right. So that's what Joseph did. All right. So he was obedient to that master, not with eye service as men pleasers, but as servants of Hamashiach, doing the will of Yahweh from the heart, with goodwill, doing service as to Yahweh and not to men, knowing that whatsoever good thing any man doeth, the same shall receive of Yahweh, whether he be bond or free. So all the things that Joseph did he not receive a reward of getting elevated? And that elevation caused him to save his people. All right. So Joseph got the reward from Yahweh because he was walking in wisdom. Your first instinct isn't always your best instinct. Your first instinct isn't always the accurate thing that you're supposed to be doing. All right. Sometimes you got to just sit, wait, and be patient. And when the time came, the Most High rose up our people out of captivity. When the time came in our land, now let's go back to our land of Israel. When the time came, the Maccabees rose up. Maccabees rose up, and we had a nice little stretch. We had a nice little stretch. All right, from the time of the Maccabees until the Romans came and took us over. All right, till the Romans came and took us over. So we had about 130, 165 years of autonomy, but it ended because of our own rebellion and evil against the Most High. So right now we're in this captivity, but the so-called white man has said, okay, y'all are free. So now you can exercise and walk around in whatever degree of freedom you want to, even though we haven't been put back in the land of Israel and we haven't been liberated fully by the so-called white man by rematriating us. A lot of people say repatriation, like the fatherland, but the Bible calls Israel the motherland. So it'd be rematriation as opposed to repatriation. He didn't rematriate us into our own homeland, but he haven't restricted our movement to the land of Israel or to China or to Russia. We can go anywhere on this earth. And many of our people did leave. Many of our people did leave America and go into Russia. A lot of our people left and went to Russia, even before old Fruity Loops went over there. Paul Robeson went over there too. He liked it over there, but he didn't stay though. All right. Now we're gonna go into the last verse to bring out the point of Joseph into the book of Proverbs chapter 3. Okay, we're gonna look at let's look at verse 13 first. All right, let's look at verse 13 first. It says, happy is the man that findeth wisdom. So we know now we've been going over this all week, how Joseph is walking in the shadows of wisdom. And Joseph is also a type of Yahushua. We went over that too. How things that happen to him are things that happen to us and things that happen to the Messiah. Happy is a man that findeth wisdom and the man that getteth understanding. Right? So now it's talking about the man that finds wisdom is happy. Joseph in his spirit was happy, serving the Most High. All right. And walking in that wisdom because he knew that wisdom was going to lift him up and elevate him. Okay. So let's go to verse 18. She is a tree of life. See that? To them that lay hold upon her. So wisdom brings life. Wisdom brings life to whatever you're doing. And that's why everything that Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, that's why everything is prospering. There's life, literally life. The field and the house was blessed because Joseph was in charge of it. and happy is everyone that retaineth her. So wisdom gives us the freedom that we need or want in our spirits and shows us how to operate in her so that our spirits and our endeavors will be prosperous. It might not. Look how long Joseph had to do something for what? Over 30 something years he was down here. So Joseph is really, really being patient. But in his patience, that tree of life, everything is still budding and everything is still flourishing and everything is growing. All right. Within his in his control. His master's house. Okay. His master's house, his master's property, his master's goods. Everything is growing. Everything is getting bigger, and bigger for Joseph, for Yahweh. All right. So now wisdom is what is keeping him in that way. And we showed that the other day also. All right. You have to go back and really look at how wisdom is preserving Joseph. Because a lot of us read, this part of the history, but we forget to understand how all of these things are happening. All right. We forget this, we forget about, okay, how did Joseph do this? We forget that it was wisdom. Or maybe we don't even know that it was wisdom that was keeping him. And wisdom was causing him to to have favor when he got put into the pit. Okay, when he got put into the pit. And then let me see. In Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 10, let's go to verse. Let's go to it real quick, and then that'll be the last one. I just want to reiterate it because we went over it before. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 10. And we can start like around verse. Let's see. Verse 13. They even make the reference here that it's talking about Genesis 39. All right. It says, when the righteous was sold. So Joseph was sold. The Midianites picked him up. They sold him to the Ishmaelites. Then the Ishmaelites sold him to the Midianites. Then the Midianites sold him to another group of Ishmaelites. When the righteous was sold, she forsook him not. So wisdom still with him. All right. Let's show you right here. But wisdom delivered from pain those that attended upon her. So wisdom delivered, showing you how it's talking about wisdom. All right. Now, verse 13. When the righteous was sold, talking about Joseph, she forsook him not, but delivered him from sin. She kept Joseph from sinning. So when his brothers did that to him, he didn't hate his brothers for what he did at that moment of what they did. He didn't hate them. He didn't have a grudge against them because that would have been a sin. It says she went down with him into the pit. So wisdom went down with Joseph when he got put into that pit. Okay. And left him not in bonds till she brought him the scepter of the kingdom, which is him ruling over Egypt, and power against those that oppressed him. All right. As for them that had accused him, she showed them to be liars and gave him perpetual glory. Then it goes from Joseph, which is the only ruler that we had when we were being oppressed. That's the only Israelite that we have that was a ruler with the scepter in his hand when we were being oppressed by the Egyptians, because it goes from there and then it goes into the Israelites and talks about Moses, Mashah. So we have a person that was sold. He got put into a pit. He was put in bonds, but wisdom delivered him. And then he got the scepter of the kingdom. So that's talking about Joseph. But all of this, all of this started with with Joseph, with him walking in wisdom, and she didn't forsake him. So that's showing us how we have to walk in wisdom. We got to know what wisdom is and walk in it. Read the scriptures to see what is wisdom. Read the wisdom of Solomon, matter of fact, and get the underlining understanding of what is wisdom. All right, so man, we've been going for longer than I expected. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and end up. Let's go back to where we started at, Genesis 49. All right. Yeah, Genesis 39. Let's go back to Genesis 39. About Joseph. So this is what's going on with Joseph, walking in wisdom. All right. Slavery was different back then. Wasn't nobody that was, wasn't nobody that was going to come and deliver you. Wasn't no, like what happened with Abraham. All right. Abraham did that. But that force that Abraham had, apparently it ain't around no more. Okay. Apparently it's not around anymore. All right. So slavery was a reality. You worked with it. And then once the time came, the Most High would raise up the righteous ones that had been loyal to him in that captivity. And they would be the leaders, because we understood, man, we're being enslaved because of our evil. Ezekiel understood this. Jeremiah understood this. Daniel understood this. All of our people understood this. It seemed like the so-called black man in America is the only one that don't understand this. It seemed like the so-called Latinos, and they don't understand this. That the Most High allowed the Gentiles to conquer you because you were evil and broke the commandments of Yahweh. You want to say, oh, it's their fault? No, it's our debt to the Most High from Deuteronomy chapter 28 that caused the Most High to put us in captivity and in slavery and in bondage in the first place. All right, we were the ones that went against him and did against his commandments and his laws and and his statutes. Okay, and he put us in slavery. Everybody understood this. Everybody understood this. Daniel understood, like I said. Ezekiel understood it. Jeremiah understood it. Moses wrote about it. So Moses understood it. Daniel said, man, all these evils came upon us because we sinned against the Most High. And instead of repenting right now and bringing the people back into obedience to the Most High, a lot of our people that try to teach the Bible, to try to teach the people, they're bringing the people more division, bringing the people more strife, bringing the people more disagreement. They're not bringing the people back to obedience to the Most High. The Most High said, all right, the Most High said that whosoever doeth and teaching the commandments, whosoever doeth and teaches the commandments shall be called great in the kingdom. Now that's what Yahweh said. So that's always going to be part of what we do, what I do, is teaching his commandments, because that's who he said is great. The kingdom of heaven will call that person great. Hey, look at that brother. You see that brother down there teaching the Bible? Oh man, that guy is great. That brother is great. That servant of ours is great. So the kingdom of heaven says, man, this person is great. Hallelujah, is great. So if you want to be on that level, you got to teach the commandments. And in the captivity that we're in, in the diaspora or the exile that we're in, we have to teach the commandments to our people. We have to teach the commandments. The scripture says we blessed, if we blessed if we teach the commandments. So it tells us, hey, that's what you got to do. That's the number one job, is to teach the commandments. All right. So once we teach the commandments, then we're gonna be all right, man. But we gotta first, teach the commandments to be called great in the kingdom. Even though we're in captivity, we gotta teach these commandments to our people. All right. So Joseph was in the captivity, but he kept doing the work of the Most High. And at this particular time, the work of the Most High meant what? Serving his master. That's the reality. And by him serving his master, what happened? By him serving his master, that's when they said, man, you know what, man, Joseph is a good, trustworthy slave. He's intelligent. He's wise. He's trustworthy. I think I want him to be my slave, man. The Pharaoh called Joseph from the jail, you know. And then when he called him from the jail, he said, oh, okay, man, you know, won't you be overcharged of all of this? You know, won't you be overcharged of it? Won't you take the charge of it? And then Joseph became right up under Pharaoh, just like that. And then the Most High said, okay, my people have been down here for 215 years. All right, it's time to bring them out now. He said, somebody got to die. All y'all firstborn got to die. So there was a terrible price to pay for what happened to Joseph and the children of Yasharallah. All right. And once again, 215 years, when you go into the book of Galatians, chapter 3, verse 17, it shows you that the 430 years began when Abraham received the promise from the Most High. And it ended when we came out of Egypt and we got the commandments from Parashah. All right. So the Most High made everybody pay the price for the evil that happened to his people. But it wasn't by our hand that this thing started, that the payback started. It was at the command of Yahweh. And everybody saw his power. Everybody heard his voice. Everybody knew that this is what he wanted to have done because he made himself known. That's the same thing that happened in America. The Most High is going to bring the plagues of Egypt upon America. All right, upon America again. Right. And well, you know what, y'all? Now I think I'm gonna end on I think I'm gonna end on I think I want to end on that note. Okay. I want to end on that note. Which is Second Ezra's. I'm thinking about Genesis. Second Ezra's well, they don't got Ezra's on him. Ain't that something? They don't got the book of Ezra's. I hate when they be having these little apocrypha, these little websites, and they don't have Ezra on there. I wonder if they got it in the regular Ezra. Nope. Let's go see if they just got, if they just have the apocrypha. Okay. Yeah, I'm in the Bible with apocrypha, so that ain't true. I got the apocrypha. I know the Catholic Bible got it. Some of y'all gonna be mad if I use that book. Let's use let's go into the Catholic Bible, man. It's the same book as Ezra's. Let's go to Second Ezra's. I could just go to another website, but and type it in. They got Ezra's up here. They have Baruch and everybody. They got a conspiracy against Ezra. They don't want Ezra on there. All right, so we're gonna go up here. We're gonna go to second, 2, Ezra 15 and 10 in the KJV. from that. Go right there. Bigger letters everywhere, so this is better for us anyway. All right, so second Ezra chapter 15. Let's go down to verse 10. Second Ezra 15 and 10. It says, "Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt." Man, things are being conspired against us, and they just quiet. They don't realize the danger that they're in. All right. We don't realize the danger that's really about to happen to us in the world. But I will bring them with a mighty hand, with a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. Right? Then you got woe to the world and them that dwell therein. So this ain't talking about ancient Egypt. It's talking about modern Egypt, which is America. It's talking about America, which is modern Egypt. Right? So the Most High say he's going to bring the plagues as before and will destroy all the land thereof. All right, so that's all we wanted to bring out right there. All right, so that's it for tonight. May the Most High Power, Yahweh, Bashem HaMashiach Yahweh Shai, be with you in righteousness. All right, so big up yourself. All right, all those who serve the Most High Power, Yahweh. All right, so remember now, the next new moon is going to be December 6th to December 7th, sunset to sunset. That's the next new moon. Passover is going to be April 18th to April 19th is the first day, and April 24th to April 25th is going to be the seventh day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. All right, and if the Sabbath falls in between those days, then we can cook on the Sabbath for the Feast of Unleavened Bread for Passover. The whole week we can cook, even if it's on the Shabbat. However, and I must note this very distinctly and acutely, if we have our own days that we have decided to set aside to commemorate something that Yahweh did, as in Hanukkah, which begins on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is happening on Friday night, which is the Sabbath, we cannot cook on that holy day. Why? Because it's a holy day, Sabbath of rest. It's not the holy day of Hanukkah. Yahweh is the one that makes days holies for the whole nation. So we can't violate the Sabbath because we say, man, let's celebrate this day and cook on it. We cannot violate the Sabbath. Yahweh has given us the laws when we can violate, Sabbath and cook on the Sabbath, as in, the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Feast of Weeks and the Feast of Tabernacles. Yahweh has shown us, when we can cook on those particular days. So we can't just make up our own holy days and say we're going to cook on this day. But we can observe Passover and Purim, what have you, but we can't violate the Sabbath in how we observe these days. All right, so that's it. All right. The so-called Afro-Latino indigenous peoples in North, Central, South America and the Caribbean are the 12 tribes of Israel, as well as those of us that's been scattered throughout Africa, throughout Asia, South Georgia, Russia, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. All right. All of our people scattered throughout the whole world, mainly the people that were oppressed and put in slavery in all these countries that look like the Afro-Latino indigenous people, or if you want to say Latino, indigenous, Afro type of people, you can say that too. All right. So I love you, my people. In the name of Yahushua, may the Most High be with you and guard you and protect you in righteousness. All right. But those that do evil shall receive for the evil that they have done. Obey the laws, commandments, and statutes of Yahweh. Walk in the royal basics, Royal. Repentance unto salvation, obedience to the Torah. All right. Worship and love and obey Yahweh in the name of Yahushua as the children of Yashar Allah. In these last days, the Most High will deliver us and bring us into the wilderness and bring us back to our own land. All right. So that's it. Shalom. Hallelujah.